Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. Harrison Graham back in our studios here for another episode of Chicago Bears Now. Yes, the Super Bowl is tonight, but we got a lot of Bears stuff to get to as well. So let's go ahead and jump on into today's show. How about the idea of signing Josh Jacobs, the Raiders running back set to enter free agency? Now, he could be franchise tagged. I'd say he's a pretty prime tag candidate for Las Vegas, but nothing is guaranteed. He is a running back. They could let him test the open market and see what his value ends up being. Now, they ran him a ton here in 2022, 340 carries, career high, 1,653 yards, led the NFL in rushing, 12 touchdowns, averaged almost 5 yards per carry. Definitely the best year of his career this year in 2022. Now, he might cash in because of that. I mean, I think there's a good chance Jacobs gets $12+ million per year, which is why I think him getting tagged is fairly likely. I think the tag number is about $10.5 million, so the Raiders can have control over him for less than probably what he would make per year on the open market. But I do think he would be an upgrade over David Montgomery. I've talked about this with Saquon. Like, how much are you willing to pay for a running back if you are Chicago when you have so many needs? I think that's a fair question to ask, but I do think he'd be good in this offense. Now, you look at the free agency group this year at running back. Saquon and Josh Jacobs are obviously those top two guys. Miles Sanders, who's gearing up to play tonight, he's set to enter free agency. He could cash in, especially with the big game in the Super Bowl. Tony Pollard, who had that ankle injury, he is probably going to get tagged by Dallas. Reports of that already coming out. David Montgomery with Chicago. Jamal Williams with Detroit. He had a bunch of touchdowns this year. Then you've got some lesser guys, Kareem Hunt, Devin Singletary, Jeff Wilson, and Rashad Penny, but it is a good free agent group, and it's also a loaded draft. I mean, I think there's some really good running backs in the middle rounds that Montgomery gets too expensive or these other backs just cost too much. You could let Monty go, not sign someone in free agency, and get someone in the middle rounds to pair with Khalil Herbert. So I think the Bears are going to have options, but I will be curious to see, like, do they view running back as a position they want to for sure upgrade at? And if they do, I'll be curious to see how much money they're willing to throw around at a guy like Josh Jacobs or a Saquon Barkley. Now, who do you guys think the Bears will pair with Khalil Herbert at running back in 2023? I don't think it'll be Trestan Ebner. He could be back as the third running back, but I do think whether it's bringing back David Montgomery, signing a veteran, or drafting someone that they do need to pair someone with Herbert not named Trestan Ebner, let me know, who do you think that other running back will be? Let's get to a juicier story. Fields recruiting Tee Higgins. Is he? Yes, no, hard to say completely. He was asked during one of his appearances this week at Radio Row about the idea of trading for Tee Higgins, and he basically said that would be awesome when asked about a potential partnership with the Bengals wide receiver. There's been some trade buzz around him, although Higgins did say this week that he would like to remain in Cincinnati, but obviously it'll all come down to money as the Bengals got to pay Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Here's what Fields had to say in further detail. He said he's a great player, he's got great size, great receiver, and he's just really smooth. Of course, the things he can do on the outside with the jump balls, route running, he's an awesome player for sure. And look, the Bears need a number one receiver. I mean, it's like beating a dead horse at this point. We all know it. Now, you can't force the issue. You can't just trade, a crazy amount for a Tee Higgins, but he would be a number one receiver for a lot of teams in the NFL, and especially the Chicago Bears. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You look at his career numbers, he's put up number one receiver stats, lower number one receiver numbers, but when you play next to Jamar Chase, you're not going to have 1,500 yards, but over 3,000 yards in 3 seasons, 19 total touchdowns. I think he's a guy that if you bring him in here, he's easily your number one. Mooney and Claypool can get knocked back a peg. And then all of a sudden, you really don't need a ton at receiver, right? Like, if you bring in one of these guys, Tee Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, then you don't need much more. Maybe you draft a guy in the middle rounds, but you're pretty set with EQ, Velus Jones as some depth pieces, and maybe you bring back one of those other guys as well. We all know the Bears need a receiver like this. Are they willing to trade big assets to do it? Because if I'm Cincinnati, I want the A.J. Brown trade for Tee Higgins, first and a third. Now, they may not get that, but I do think they could get a first, whether it be this year or next year. Obviously, the Bears are not trading the number one pick for Tee Higgins, but could they trade a 2024 first? That's what I'll ask you. Would you trade a first-round pick in 2024 to land Tee Higgins? Would you make that move? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Let me know in the comments. I would certainly consider it, especially if the Bears trade down in the draft this year and get an extra first next year. Y for yes, N for no. Would you trade next year's first for Tee Higgins? BetUS, the place to go for Super Bowl Sunday. Lots of prop bets available at your disposal. Chatsports.com/Bears to create an account today. Use promo code BEARDOWN. This is the best day of the year when it comes to sports betting. So get going with BetUS, have some fun, and get some extra money with that deposit bonus. It's kind of crazy. This line in total over-under has held firm for about 4 or 5 days now. Eagles 1-point favorites. Over-under set at 51 points. BetUS and most sports books are predicting an instant classic. I got Chiefs 27-24, which is right on the over-under. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll come down to the trenches play. And if Kansas City's O-line can hold up well enough, I think they'll win. If not, I think the Eagles will win. Chatsports.com/Bears, promo code BEARDOWN to get 125% deposit bonus. Go bet on the game. Go bet on some props. It is a lot of fun. All right, Bears legend Dick Butkus wasted no time in ripping the Bears organization this week. Here's what he had to say, quote, "There's no reason they should be this bad. I get a little disgusted. I get really hot watching them, especially with the lack of effort things. I don't get it. I really don't. Why have they been so bad? Is it the scouting department? What's the answer here? To tell you the truth, I don't know. Look at the teams that are winning. Look at their organization. The ownership is the ones that hire. It starts from them too. They shouldn't be void of any criticism." Here's what I would say. I understand where Butkus is coming from for the most part. Now, I don't know if he's directly talking about this new regime because I actually didn't really see a lack of effort at much this year. I think the culture actually held up pretty well in year one with Flus. But yeah, I mean, obviously they don't have enough talent right now, and I do think he has valid points in calling out ownership. The McCaskies, I don't think have always done a great job. They're not football people, so that makes it difficult as well. But I do think we have to give this new regime time, and that includes former Bears players. You got to give it time to see how it's going to go. So big offseason, that's been well documented on this show and other shows that Bears have the number one pick. They've got the most cap space in the NFL. You got to strike, and you got to connect. So we will see how the offseason goes. But obviously, if you have all these assets this offseason and don't put together a more winning product over the next few years, that is a missed opportunity to say the least. Now, don't miss out because we crossed 60,000 subscribers, which means on Tuesday we will be doing a live fan-controlled mock draft. You guys will make the picks. We will have a blast. And if you haven't subscribed already, do so. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss it. 3 o'clock Central Time on Tuesday, live fan-led mock draft. You guys make the picks. We will have a blast. All right, one more story here. Lamar Jackson trade, not to Chicago, but there are trade rumors that are continuing to circulate. And if he gets traded, Baltimore will then need a quarterback, which adds another team to the list of teams that could use a quarterback. You said Koshel tweeted this out, and I thought it was a good point. He said, Ravens exploring a Lamar Jackson trade is such an intriguing possibility for the Bears. Not to trade for him, but he continues by saying, would Baltimore be willing to trade Jackson and then trade up to the first overall pick, giving Chicago a haul of draft picks for a successor? It's a fun scenario to think about. Think about it this way. Number one, the more QB-needy teams, the better. But what if, as we look at some current QB-needy teams, what if they trade up with Atlanta? That's been a popular idea that the Falcons, they've got a lot of assets. Lamar could fit in well there. They get a trade with Atlanta, so Baltimore would have the number 8 pick, also get a bunch of other picks. Could then Baltimore move from 8 to number 1, trade a lot with the Bears? I think it's possible. There's a lot of QB-needy teams already in the NFL, and if Baltimore trades Jackson, obviously they're going to be added to this list. Sure, you may take Atlanta away, but I don't think Atlanta is viewed as a team that's going to trade up to number 1. Baltimore could be, though, especially if they hire Eric Bieniemy, where there's rumors of that circulating right now, that he could take that job after the Super Bowl. He gets there, he wants to go get his quarterback to run an offense, and if they're willing to move up and go get a Bryce Young or a C.J. Stroud, that could be very interesting. So keep an eye on this. I think the Lamar stuff is very real. It sounds like, I think the report came out from ESPN that in guaranteed money, they're like $100 million apart. Like, it's not even close. He wants more guaranteed than Deshaun Watson, which I understand, $230 million. I don't know if he's going to get that in Baltimore, so we will keep an eye on this. So who will be Lamar's 2023 team? Where will he play next year? Type BAL for the Ravens or type O for other. And if you have a prediction of where he could go, let me know. I do think Atlanta makes a lot of sense. I don't think the Colts will do it. I think they want to draft their guy, but we will see what happens. Consider the Raiders as a possibility with the number 7 pick as well. All right, that's going to do it for Chicago Bears. Now enjoy the Super Bowl tonight. Hopefully the Bears are in the big game sooner rather than later, but obviously a ways to go to get there. Hit that sub button, turn on your notifications. Lots of content to come throughout the offseason.